Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode, I've stopped numbering them, of Trans Talks. I am your host, I almost said I am your guest. I am your host, Sammie James, and I'm excited for this latest episode. I'm really happy to have the amazing comedian, storyteller, wonderful human being, Kelli Dunham. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Sammie?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, and I'm doing better now because you're here.
Oh,
The
awesome. Awesome. Me, not just me, but also me and I can't do it over my shoulder like this, but also me and the cats.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the
Hello,
cats are
cats.
behind me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing I ask is for you to introduce yourself a little bit more for people. I specifically ask, what words do you use to describe yourself? And that can be identity wise. It can also be just you know I comedy fan. I nerd,
Yeah.
um, human, and
Yeah.
anything else you want to tell people. This is your time to do that too.
Well, yeah, Kelly Dunham. I'm a Brooklynite. I feel like I am a Brooklyn. My heart is very Brooklyn. I am a non-binary person. For a long time, I was saying gender queer, and I feel like we aren't using that word anymore. And also non-binary kind of describes me more. So yeah, I'm a nurse and a comedian and a storyteller. And I also produce events, not as many events as you do, Sammie. Sammie is like, like the grand
Shots
event
fired.
producer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what else? Yeah, that's kind of about me. I'm proudly hashtag middle-aged pride. I'm 53 years old. Um, yeah, I guess that's the most important thing.
Was that show 3 years ago?
What show?
Did like because I for
Oh,
far
the
I'm like
50. I'm
your
turning 50.
50th birthday show. Was that 3 years ago?
Does it feel less or more than that? Because
It
it
feels
was.
less. If it, I
Oh yeah, no, I turned 50. Well, I mean that was like 3 months after I turned 50, but yeah, that
oh
was
okay.
yeah. Um, Yeah, that was just 3 years ago. To me, it seems like 1,000 years ago. But yeah, that was my 50th birthday show.
Yeah.
50 was actually, I had a hard time with 40, but 50, I was like, I'm glad to still be alive. So we're all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow up question from your intro: are we not saying genderqueer anymore? Because that's what I
Hmm.
use.
I mean, I feel like well, one thing I feel like genderqueer maybe implies more glitter than I actually have, you know?
Mm,
I'm not really a glittery person. And I've just made peace with that.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, because I feel like I am gender nonconforming, right? Like
Hmm.
that's clear. Like, nobody ever like, experience. But I don't know. Yeah, the kids stopped saying it, Sammie. I think the kids
Oh,
stopped saying
okay.
it.
Yeah.
But I still use it, that and non-binary, and it depends also on who I'm talking to. I mean, that's
Yeah.
even with pronouns. Like, I don't really feel the need to use they exactly unless
Yeah.
I'm talking to certain kinds of straight people, and then
Hmm.
like, they get more who they're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm the opposite. Like I really like when other trans people use they for me. If I'm with
Aw.
cis people, it's just like you need to say she. Like, oh, you can't call me they.
My friend Anna and I went axe throwing, which sounds like a very Brooklyn thing to say. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, we went axe throwing. It's an actual activity now, and
Uh-huh.
I'd actually been with my previous girlfriend's parents who were doing it as part of a church thing, which church axe throwing sounds scary as hell, right? But anyway, so we were paired up with this nice straight couple, and
Hmm.
I guess straight couple would be my guess if I was guessing. And the woman they'd me the whole time, and And not like I didn't get, not like a crunchy, like not like I don't think they listen to NPR, And I did not get the feeling they were like NPR white people.
Okay.
And I just really appreciated that. I thought that
Yeah.
was I don't know, I just really appreciate it. It felt like somebody, and also like it's true. A lot of people who look like me better start with they or he. Don't start with she. Like I know that I'm maybe the outlier
Mhm.
here. So, and I definitely have never felt like a she ever. Like when I was a little kid, I was like, no, I'm a little girl or I'm a little boy. No, I'm a little boy, always when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah.
so she doesn't exactly do it, but he doesn't exactly either. So, I mean, they is kind of something, and also they is something that people are now more familiar with. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to ask this question after axe throwing. What gives you gender euphoria? Is it axe throwing? Is that what does it?
that's a really good question. The first time I got a haircut in a barbershop, like a proper haircut. It's interesting, because I feel like I am a white person who lives in Brooklyn. So there are, if I'm being respectful, there are places I should not go, right? I mean, white people think we belong everywhere. So I actually was like, well, do I go to a Russian barbershop then? Like, is that the appropriate place for me to go? Been to Russian barbershops. Sometimes they're kind of mean. And sometimes I like a mean barber, but anyway, there's a place right around the corner from me. And I just kind of poked my head in and I was like, hey, what do you think about, like when they weren't very busy, I was like, what do you think about me coming here? And they were like, you got money? And I was like, yes, I do. And they're like, we think it's great then. So that's kind of become my place. And they are very, like, I feel like they get, you know, um, they always want to do my eyebrows, which, means they're not really impressed with my eyebrows. There's a part when you go to a Dominican barbershop, maybe other places too, where they will, if they're doing your eyebrows, they'll trim your eyebrows with a straight razor, but they steady themselves with their thumb on the inside of your, like by your eye. The first
Okay.
time that happened, that felt a little scary. But that whole thing, that whole process, very like in addition to also then I feel much happier after I get my haircut. That is definitely one thing. And yeah, the first person to ever call me handsome was Kate Bornstein.
Mm.
The first time I was called handsome, that was definitely yeah.
What an act to follow.
Yeah, yeah. She ruffled my hair and she said, "But you're so handsome." Yeah.
Mm.
So being called handsome like that kind of
Yeah.
instead of being, and people defaulting to that, which happens more and more. Like now it is seldom that people call me um I mean, also I've gotten older. People aren't really commenting on that because they aren't using that anymore anyway. But I appreciate that. Or even if like,
Yeah.
you know, my mom liked she's died, but she liked nifty. Oh, you look nifty, and I was like, well, that's not a gendered adjective, at least.
Oh
It's
no.
kind of a strange adjective.
Oh no.
But
I like neat. Like oh no. Like I've I've had people like were like, what did she say? I'm just like, what? Is it, what? It looks neat.
and it also implies tidy, so that's good too.
Yeah. Ah, that's a compliment. It's a
Yeah.
compliment we can all get behind.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you like to tell the people watching about Queer Memoir? Uh,
I would love to tell the people watching about queer memoir. We are now
yeah.
on we're going into our, well, is it our, if it's our 12, okay, so if we started in 2010, in January of 2010, January of 2022 is our 12th year. Yeah, the beginning of our 12th year. So we are now, so we're a storytelling show, and we're really, as far as the modern iteration of storytelling, we were the first queer one in New York. There are other ones, great ones now, besides us, including Dre Campbell Does Tell, and there's some other lots of queer comedy shows, of course. But storytelling shows. And the idea behind Queer Memoir, we just kind of started it and we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just like, oh, we just like want people to tell stories. And at first we thought it was like maybe writers, and then we were like, no. And it first started at Collect Pond, which was Tom Leger's apartment. It's literally where Topside Press was founded. And it was so underground, like we had to stand at the street corner and tell people where they were coming in. Like we weren't allowed to publicize the address. And 100 people showed up on a January night. It was like 12 degrees out. We're like, oh, this is a thing. Like people like this. So we've been going at it for 12 years. That was myself and Jenny Murphy, who's a playwright. And she was not a performer at all at that time. Well, really still isn't. And so we really wanted to include folks who are not performers and are not used to getting on stage, with the idea that everyone has a story to tell. It's literally, this is what I tell people when I do workshops all the time. Like, you are a storyteller because the DNA of people who couldn't tell stories didn't get through, right? Like, oh my God, the saber-toothed tiger almost ate me is like an important, to be able to craft that narrative is important. So it's the DNA that didn't get eaten, and was able to communicate about danger. So it's in all our DNA. And so it's been going on for 12 years. We've done it many different ways, so many different venues. We've done it, in conjunction with, like, we have done it on the subway, which is not as obnoxious as it sounds, because we do it on Sunday mornings. In fact, we did it on a Sunday morning once, and people acted like it was an actual show that they were interrupting. Like, they'd be like, oh, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. So sweet for New Yorkers, right? And when we were going out to Coney Island one time on the Q train doing the show, we got to, we weren't going to finish. And I was like, well, we can't stand on the next to the train at Coney Island because there's so much police presence. So definitely be like, what the hell are you guys doing? So we got off at West A Street, which is the stop before Coney Island on the Q. And people who were not at the show, meaning people who were just trying to go to Coney Island, got off the train to finish listening to the story that the storyteller was showing. So I was like, okay, all right, this is amazing. And it also tells you how much people get hooked into stories, right? So we've had so many different venues. There was a while we were using the Queers for Economic Justice office space. And so now we're using, and we've done it in many different places, but right now we're using Caveat, which is New York's nightlife for nerds. And they've been really good to us. It's the only reason we can use a nice venue like that is they give us some economic breaks, because they do, even though we never, literally, we don't even usually break even. They let us do, many comps, not as many comps, but they work with us with comps and with the live stream for access and all that. So the next one coming up is 4 p.m. Tomorrow, Sunday, November 21st. And the theme is hair. And we have some amazing storytellers. The great thing about this is people get to hear something they haven't heard any other place because it's like brand new. It's brand new. And a new thing that I'm adding is every week, which also the live stream is $5. So people should, if they live somewhere else, they should definitely get on the live stream. And also if they can't afford the $5, they should tell me. But now we're doing coloring sheets for each, because it's hard. They're cabaret tables at Caveat. And sometimes it's hard for people to sit and talk with strangers, right? So the solution obviously is coloring sheets. So I'm making a commemorative coloring sheet for each theme. So tomorrow it's queer hair. It's queer, or it's hair. So it's queer hair, don't care. I've got coloring sheets for everybody and colored pencils.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's some other stuff coming out too, but it's a really great event. It's a really great event, and I keep doing it because people keep coming, and it seems really important to storytellers. I started collecting stories from storytellers of what it meant to them, and last night I was just talking with Nadia Awad, who was a guest curator for What Is Tuz, which was all Muslim American storytellers. And one of the people who told a story at that, which they recorded, we don't usually record it, but they did for that, and it ended up on WBAI on their website, passed away. And that was the only recorded version of her story, a woman from Yemen. So that is whose name I'm deliberately not saying because I think there's some different reasons why I shouldn't say it. But so for me, she was like, that is literally the only place that we have that. It's been such an amazing. So it feels like church to me. I don't go to church anymore. Queer Memoir is the closest thing to church in a good way for me.
Yeah. I can attest people watching, it's an incredible time. It's a great time, and if you can, go to a queer memoir show.
Yeah, Sammie is a queer memoir favorite. Sammie always brings out something. I feel like something new that people haven't heard often, or a new version, or something like that. In fact, Sammie will be at the one queer memoir "I Hate the Holidays" on December 19th.
Will I?
That's what we talked about, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, which is going to be really great. That is going to be a celebration of. I know queer folks are now having to go back with biological families because, like, we don't have COVID as much as an excuse. So this is going to be our holiday celebration, anti-celebration. It's going to be a blowout, and we're going to get all our anger out and hear some amazing stories, and there will be gifts for everyone. Every single person there will get a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, and related to this, I don't know the answer to this question. How did you get into stand-up and storytelling? This question just came to me. It wasn't planned.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a stand-up comic. Like, from the moment I knew that it was a thing that could happen. My dad let me stay up late to watch the Steve Martin, his first stand-up special, which of course I didn't understand because Steve Martin, even though he's kind of goofy, like, it's actually kind of almost esoteric, his stand-up.
Oh yeah.
Like his song, like grandmother's song, "Be courteous, kind, and forgiving, be gentle and peaceful each day, be warm and heedful and grateful, and have a great thing to say." And then it's like, and then it goes into more just bananas things. He's like, "Be oblong and have your knees removed." It's like very surreal. But he also had an arrow through his head and everything. So that moment, I want to be a stand-up comic. I used to stop and tell stories on my way home. We had a 3/4 of a mile driveway. So the bus would drop us off and we still have like a mile more to walk. And it was cows on both sides. And I would always be late for doing my chores because I would be telling jokes to the cows, which is by far not the worst audience I've ever had, by far.
I bet you killed. I bet you killed.
It was all right. Yeah. And so I always wanted to be a stand-up comic. And then I did like a workshop when I was in my mid-20s. And I had a really bad experience where the person who was leading the workshop actually kind of made fun of me. And then I just like, oh, I don't think I have enough self-esteem for this. And then I started again in Philadelphia. There used to be a comedy club at a hotel in the basement of a hotel in Northeast Philadelphia. And that it was an open mic on Wednesdays. And it was the grossest bunch of mostly men that you would ever meet. It was just so disgusting. Like every third joke was a rape joke. Also, it was when people were still smoking, inside. It was just such a foul place. And I used to start every, my set used to start with, I need you to go with me here and believe that I am an adult female and not a 12-year-old boy. And one of the other comics said, "Oh, you're not a 12-year-old boy. You're just a big, fat, ugly dyke." Like that was his heckle at an open mic, And my response, which did not go through my "is this safe" censor before it came out of my mouth, was like, this was right in the height of all the priest pedophilia stuff breaking through in Philadelphia, which is very Catholic. And I said, "Oh, you're just sad. I'm not a 12-year-old boy. You and the Catholic priests." That man chased me in the parking lot with a broken bottle. And as I was running away, I should have said trigger warning for Kelli being chased in the parking lot with the broken water. As I was running away, I was like, I should get better at running or I should get different venues. Like, I have to change one of these two things. And so that's when I started I was like, oh, like the queer, performing in the queer community is what I need to do. And then I started producing a show called Gaiety, which is, by the way, is a great name for a queer comedy show, which I did in Philadelphia for years and years. It's kind of not needed in New York. There's already plenty. But so that's how I started specifically with comedy. And I have to say, now I have like, so not ambivalence, but there's so many people who are, I see like are able to break through so much quicker. There's just so much more social room for openly queer and trans comedy. And occasionally I'm like, I literally introduced that person to New York, and now they're on the Colbert Soar. So I have like a little bit of, but I never thought that this was even going to be an option, And
Yeah.
and I have to say that like performing in the queer community, like my first gigs were always like small town, small prides and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, one year I did 28 pride events. Back in the day when they had money to pay performers for pride events. After 2008, that kind of fell apart. But I remember emceeing Atlanta Pride for 4 days in a row. No, it was supposed to be 3 days. The fourth day, they got me out of the hotel pool to come MC. The crowd booed me when I mentioned sunscreen. Atlanta's quite a party city. But that was like so much stage time. Like, where else would you get 36 hours of stage time
Right.
so that was
Yeah.
really good for me performing. And then also like anything could happen. I remember back in the day performing at Brooklyn Pride when I didn't even live in Brooklyn, and Marty Moskowitz, right, the city or the borough president, he was supposed to be, he was on a schedule and he was supposed to be performing, or not performing, speaking when a drag queen was on stage. And actually 3 drag queens. And so he started to walk on stage while the drag queen on stage. She took off her shoe and like chased him with it. And then like I was actually emceeing at that point, and he's like, and I'm like, what can I do? I mean, I'm just the MC. I don't even work for Brooklyn Pride, not my crowd. Like I feel like most people have not had that experience. You could do a lot of club comedy and never be asked to intervene between a borough president and a drag queen.
Nice.
So yeah, so I feel so lucky. And then also there's things that are open now that I'm like, oh, like I never even considered that would ever be an option. And then storytelling kind of came along because I've always been, I mean, I had those like, back when I started like Butch Femme, it's all about who kicks the cat off the bed, like those kind of stuff. But I've never been a one-liner person. It's always been stories.
Yeah.
So I feel really lucky that there's also been the social space opened up to kind of talk about more serious things,
Mm-hmm.
and even maybe not serious things, but just things that have a narrative arc, which to me are way more interesting anyway, most of the time, And actually, if you watch good hour specials, they always have a narrative
Oh
arc,
yeah.
even if it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So that's how I started at the end.
Awesome. So, and it's great segue from like horrible stand-up comedy rooms to this question. What cis nonsense are you sick of?
Yeah. So I mean, the bigger things, right? Like, just come on, J.K. Rowling. Like, come on, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Even though that's like not the thing that's about, but that is dangerous, right? That is dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And I think about, you know, like the idea, like this idea that somehow feminists can't change, and so they can't, that people got stuck in this, and then they just somehow have to stay turfy. Like, why did you become turfy? But why do you have to stay turfy? I just feel like I expect more than that now. And we should have always been expecting more, right? I mean, that's just like something I've been thinking about. Didn't something just happen where like the entire cast of the Harry Potter movies got together and then like didn't invite J.K. Rowling? I saw something like that just happened.
Yeah.
And also Jax Jackson, who I'm not telling any tales out of school. Jax Jackson is a trans person, and that person, Jax, just opened on Broadway with the new Harry Potter. Which I think is a huge, big fuck you. And Jax is also understudying the child of Draco Malfoy, who is a main character, like one of 2 main characters, which I feel like is a great fuck you. To kind of that like ridiculousness of like, why are you, why? Like, why is this the hill you're dying on? Like, you grew up like, anyway, I don't know why I'm just like got very mad at J.K. Rowling, but also because there's so many, like you go perform at colleges or like you have a reading at a coffee house and there's some like 21-year-old trans kid that comes to the thing and is like, oh yeah, I used to belong to the Harry Potter fan club and that's where I met all my friends. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just really like, especially for young people, I don't know. And then something that, I don't know, it's interesting because my gender, like I used to kind of not claim the word trans. I mean, I've never been anything other than this, which is clearly gender non-conforming, to at least to other people. They think it's, because whatever, gender dumb. But like I remember I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "It's interesting you feel like you don't have a trans identity because don't like you have gender problems every single day." And I was like, "Oh yes, I'm hassled every single day, of course." And so I'm definitely sick of the bathroom. Like the bathroom has gotten old, and also like that there's not actually there's no safe place for me to go to the bathroom. It's not like going in the men's room is any better for me, right? And the women's room, I guess, is where people think that I should be, maybe, if assigned female birth, if that's what we're going on, who knows? But clearly I'm not supposed to be there, like I went, now this is going to sound like not very smart, but my mom wanted to go to this movie theater that was attached to a NASCAR place. So I essentially went to the bathroom in a NASCAR place, and a guy, like there was a kid in there, and I was walking out, and the kid walked out first, and then the guy ran in, and he was like, "What the hell's wrong with you? What the hell's wrong with you?" And he like grabbed my shirt and then started grabbing my boobs. And he's like, something about like, these things aren't even real. I was like, how do you think, what, they aren't real? Like, first of all, they're literally attached to me. Like they're as real as like, and also like all sorts of people have this kind of chest tissue. This is not like, it was so strange. So I have to say like being assaulted in the bathroom, I'm over getting assaulted in the bathroom. And I know like, yeah. And I also know so many people, so much more difficult situations, right? Where it's literally, I mean, it's interesting because I went with, I'm dating somebody who's married to a white guy, open and all that. We're not cheating. And we were in Mississippi, and I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. And she's like, it's okay. And then things happen, whatever. And then anyway, it just turns out that having a cisgendered heterosexual white man around is super, super handy. Like, I was like, oh, maybe everyone I date should have a husband. Is that arranged? Is that possible? Can we all just? Anyway, he's also like, do my girlfriends now come with husbands? Because that would be awesome. That would be awesome if they come with husbands. Yeah, and then also I have to say something that happened to me. So I love where I work. I work in a high school. I love it there. I've worked there 7 years. Nobody should love their job as much as I love. And I would say in general that that folks are pretty accepting. It kind of like they're just kind of like, oh, whatever, weirdo, you're a weirdo, that's fine, like you're our weirdo kind of. And have met my girlfriend. I think they're just like more okay with maybe lesbianishness than they would be with gender, even though this is like, this is what I look like every day at work. But we have a kid who assigned male at birth and kind of has effeminate mannerisms. And I heard a staff member that I really, really like imitating him. I'm using him because that's my understanding of his pronoun. And I was like, oh, you think I'm funny. Like that's, and not in the comedy way. Like you think I'm a joke, and that really hurt my feelings. It makes me worry about that kid, which was like hopefully my first thought, but also I was like, oh, I'm a joke to you. Okay. That's nice. I mean, seeing Fun Home on Broadway. So I saw Fun Home, which is the Alison Bechdel thing about her identity. Oh, well, the Alison Bechdel thing.
Yep.
And so there's a line in the song Ring of Keys, which is talking about childback Alison seeing a butch dyke in the wild as a child. And like she has a ring of keys and she's singing about a ring of keys. The person who wrote the book for that, who is a queer person, was like, I didn't want that to be a funny song. That's not supposed to be a funny song that like butch women have like too long been like the brunt of the joke, right? Or like masculine AFAB people. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw it in the public, when it was all, dykes who had $60, in previews, that people were crying during that song. When I saw it at first, when it went to Broadway, people were like, it was a poignant song. 6 months into it, when it became famous, like more, Broadway, but like more tourists were going to see it and stuff. It wasn't just us. And I went with, actually, it was very sweet. I went with somebody who votes for the Tonys, which was a whole new experience. Alan Cumming was sitting beside me. And he cried through the whole thing, by the way. But the point of this whole long story is that the line, why doesn't everyone see how beautiful, no handsome you are? That people laughed at that. And that hurt my fucking feelings. That really hurt.
Oh, and I cried during that song, so that hurt my feelings just now. I'm just like,
yeah, that was a laugh line. And I don't think those were necessarily malicious people, but that's
yeah.
And so I have so much ambivalence around. Like I had that same experience. I just did the Moth main stage, and the Moth they're great to me, and they, like they want to include my very queer story about my fucking mistress, who died and used assisted suicide to end her life, surrounded by all her queer like exes and lovers and everything like that. Like they let me tell that from the Moth main stage, right? But when I said there's a line, so I tripped over my own feet and dropped my handouts for the Subverting the Rigid Gender Binary workshop. Now that is supposed to be a little bit funny that I'm running a workshop like that, right? But the crowd in Princeton like laughed a little too hard at that. And I was like, and this is the thing, like I feel like I have something to say beyond like our community. But my community is our community is my first priority. And so I'm like, that is like that, you can get your fucking feelings hurt, And it's not Alison Bechdel's fault that fucking people from Iowa who didn't even look at the description, they just got, tickets at the half price tickets place are laughing at them. But like, because I live in a world where Kate Bornstein tells me I'm handsome. You know what I mean? Like, so anyway,
and it's
that's
also
not
like, oh no, that song is far enough into that play that like, whoa,
yeah,
come on,
it's not, yeah,
you know what you're there for.
Yeah, yes, you could have walked out already, you fuckers. So yeah, that made me sad. So, of course there's much bigger things, and there's, things we have to be fighting about. And I like, I was just, my Facebook memory today was about me and Bryn Kelly going, the last time I saw her, we went to a Sandy Patty gospel concert at Carnegie Hall, which Bryn was like the only person in the world, the only queer person in the world that would ever want to do that with me, and she was dead 4 weeks later. That was the last time I saw her. 3 weeks later, last time I saw her in person. And, I would like the world to be a place where Bryn Kelly would still be able to be with us, So.
So, how do you feel about moving into the fun part of the show? I hope you've enjoyed all of it.
I mean, I make everything not fun. That's my thing. But yeah, go ahead.
No, listen, I'm here for it. Okay, I like how poignant all your answers to like every question. I'm really excited for your answer, not to like build it up, for like your answer when I ask what your favorite color is. Like I'm really excited. But yeah, so we're just on to some fun questions. These are just stuff stuff you don't get asked in interviews, stuff we don't get asked as adults, just and it's we are trans as a entity. It's all about trans people in the arts, so it's kind of like asking just stuff about like movies and stuff. But first question is, what is your comfort food, comfort movie, and comfort music?
So comfort food, I recently had something where I had to like change, like completely against my will, had to change the way I eat. So right now my comfort food, what I'm eating right now, is extremely overcooked ramen, like mushy ramen. Which was like the reason I'm eating while you're interviewing me, is I haven't been able to eat today, and that is like very comforting. So and also I would say like the things that I like to eat, but that like make me feel like, I like a steak on the grill, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My mom's homemade bread, which she no longer makes because she's dead, but see, there's the poignancy. Okay. Comfort movie, Footloose. The original Footloose.
It's such a good honestly, that's one of mine. It is.
Let's dance, and then all the kids start dancing.
Listen, that dancing in like the warehouse scene is that, and teaching the friend to dance are just like.
And also because they play Let's Hear It for the Boys so much at gay clubs. Like it is such, because there's a long gay dance version of it, just like the gay dance version.
Yeah.
But yeah. And what I love about that scene, let's dance. It's not just those kids who have never danced in their lives, have lived in a non-dancing area, get up and dance, not just like awkward teenagers, but like professional dancers. Because
why did the one kid have to be taught to dance?
Everyone else knows like choreographed stuff, and yeah, it's fantastic. I love Footloose. I love the scene with her and her dad where she's like, "No, I wasn't reading books I wasn't supposed to."
Okay. Comfort music.
Oh, comfort music. Music is tricky for me because I did not grow up. Like I went to a Christian school. We weren't allowed to listen to secular music. I mean, in high school, I went to a Christian school. And then I like lived in Haiti for a while. And I mean, there's just a lot of reasons where I'm really behind on pop culture. And the same is true of music. Like there's so much music. Like I thought the Beatles covered the Carpenters' Ticket to Ride, so instead of the other way around, which, the Carpenters' version of Ticket to Ride is like, he's got a ticket. It's not he, it's she. She's got a ticket to ride. Like that's how slow it is. It's terrible, but I thought that's who started it. Anyway, so my musical tastes are quite embarrassing. Like I really like pop music. I like, I like to listen to Justin Bieber, and like if I'm comforting myself. Little Nas X right now is like the latest album, especially is just is really like pretty amazing. Sometimes I can get into. I'm not a big fan of musicals to watch, but I do like to listen to music from musicals. I love I just saw Come From Away for the other day. I really love the music from that. The music from Into the Woods. What are the other Broadway shows? Fun Home too. Really enjoy the music from that. So I would say that is like, I'm gonna look. Let me look at what I have listened to most. Technology will tell me. Most played. Oh, Matilda the Musical. The songs from Matilda the Musical are amazing. I
haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh,
that is my comfort movie. So.
Oh well, there are bootlegs of I've never seen on the stage.
Okay.
Matilda, but there's bootlegs of it. If you look up slime tutorial plus child abuse, that's like, they put the code in. That's kind of the code. But there, I'll see if I can find it. There's some good bootlegs of even when it was on Broadway. That is such an amazing. I feel like it's the most. Like I actually talked about it in therapy for 2 sessions. Because sometimes there's a song that sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty. It's basically about pushing back against child abuse. That like sometimes you have to change your story. I mean, not that it is not the responsibility of the child to do that ever, but it's like that's the story of. Yeah. Like that like maybe the kid who's being abused in the family, when one kid is kind of picked on, is like actually the hero and not the goat.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. What do you like to read?
I will read fiction on a personal recommendation. Only a personal recommendation, not even like a New York Times, only personal recommendation. Right. I get mad if I start to read a fiction book and it turns out to suck or the dog dies. I don't like the dog sighing. So I will read fiction on personal recommendation. Also, I do read a fair amount of young adult apocalyptic fiction because I work in a high school. And the kids who most need to talk about a book with an adult, that's the only fucking books they want to read. So I read a fair amount of that as a favor for the next generation, essentially. Because I remember being a kid who read a book that I couldn't get adults to talk about with me. So that's like, I always feel like that's something.
Yeah.
And I do love nonfiction, I like memoir quite a bit, and some self-help. Most self-help books. Come on up, it's okay. Most self-help books. I feel like halfway through, I'm like, no, I know more than this person, but I do like a self-help book.
Yeah.
And I really like kind of historical nonfiction, not necessarily about like the history of the Brooklyn Bridge or the history of rats in Manhattan or medical history. Sometimes those are not enjoyable because they always just involve such terrible like racism usually. But you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, I would say that's. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, you know what I have on my shelf right now is Living Courageously by Joyce Meyer, who is a Christian evangelical person. She's really interesting. She's a white woman with an 8th grade graduation or 8th grade education who is on TV all the time. You've seen her on TV. She's on TV constantly. She's like worldwide, very, very rich, owns like a billion houses and a billion, very rich, a televangelist. But she was sexually abused as a child by a couple different people in her family and really opened up the conversation in the church about like it's in a way that because we're talking about family stuff, not clergy stuff, right? In the Christian Protestant church, especially like the born again folks, nobody has. So anyway, I'm reading her book called Living Courageously, which is about making courageous choices. And literally 4/5 of it, like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Oh, that's a nice encouraging thing. It's strange. It's got a nostalgia reading, I guess. So that's something that's on my thing. And then My Butch Life, which is a new book by somebody with the last name Newton. I have not finished that, but they're a friend of a friend. And I'm also reading Die Empty by Todd Henry, which is about creative resistance and creative like creative habits for long-term creativity, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I might know this answer, but what is your favorite animal? Yeah. What is your cat's favorite animal?
Hey, Sauce, what's your favorite? This cat, her favorite animal is herself, like 100%. Like this cat. So I have 2 cats that live in the house with me right now, with me and my roommates. I have a black sweater on. This is going to look great when we're done, right, Sauce? So I feel like she should be a little bit more of the focus right now. So this cat, the other Xerox, is just not very smart. Like he will chase his tail and bite it and then cry because his tail hurts. Like literally like.
Oh, that's a cat thing.
Yeah, he's just like scared, he's just not a very smart boy. This one is very smart, she figured out how to open up a pizza box. She's very smart, but she kind of looks at you like she just came home from 2 years at Oberlin and really doesn't think that your choice in reading material is appropriate. Like she really is extremely condescending. But she is a cuddle, like, and also she just decides when she's cuddling, like, I'm cuddling now. This is what's happening. So,
yep.
So I love a raccoon too. Like, I love to look at raccoons, but wouldn't want one in my house. So.
Yeah.
They have thumbs. It's a bad idea.
Yep. I told you this question was coming. What's your favorite color?
Okay, so Xerox the cat is literally sniffing a candle right now to tell you how not smart he is. Blue. Blue is my favorite color. Because of blue jeans. because that's what I was like. That when that song came out, Forever in Blue Jeans, I was like, oh my god, this is my song. They wrote it for me. It was like a boy named Sue. I thought that was about me too, because my real name is called Sue.
Great. And listen, the number one question we don't get asked enough as adults: what is your favorite dinosaur? See, it stumps you.
I mean, raptors are smart, but I feel like if I had to say a dinosaur I was close, like I was most like, what's the one that's like looks like a turtle with spikes and has the big knobby thing?
Oh, that's an ankylosaur. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly an ankylosaur, like in my heart. And one of my favorite things about whichever Jurassic Park movie was where they were bringing all the animals and they were like selling them to the rich people, and then they ate all the rich people, which was great, except for why did they eat so few rich people? I could have watched 20 more minutes of graphic rich people eating, you know. But I did like it, the one with the head that can be used as a helmet when that
Ankylosaurus. I was gonna say that next.
Yeah, that dinosaur I think is adorable. So, and I thought that was an adorable use of him, like just going, you know, running his head into rich people and watching rich people just fly across the room. That was amazing. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great place to end. Two final things. Final question I ask you is, who are some trans folks you think are doing good work right now that people should check out?
Well, there's this comic named Sammie James.
Never heard of her.
Well, my friend D'Lo, who's a comedian, from Long Tunes guy. Yeah, he really is doing great work, and I think he's gonna do even more amazing work. He's really like his To Tea or Not to Tea show, which was about, you know, it was ostensibly about deciding or not deciding to go on testosterone, but it was really about masculinity. And not in the way that everything in the world is fucking about masculinity. You know, it was about considerations of masculinity and friendships. So I thought that was really amazing. And this is like why we need a bigger platform, because like everyone should be seeing that. Like that is a much more interesting comment on masculinity than anything Matthew McConaughey is going to make. You know, I'm sure he doesn't even make his own work, but I'm just saying, like, for example, let's see.
Give D'Lo 6 Netflix specials.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, and people act like, you know, what's his face? Like, you know, like that was so, but like he's edgy. He's like pushing boundaries. And it's like, you know, transphobia.
It was back in the 90s.
Yeah, like transphobia is not like, when people act like racism is pushing boundaries, I'm like, you know, that's what the entire country is founded on, right? That's not actually being edgy. Yeah. You're just recycling. Yeah. So D'Lo is like one person who I really, Chloe Kozer also sings one of my favorite songs, which is about like basic. Yeah. She's fantastic. Casey Platt also, a great writer. Yeah, that's who comes off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a great list. So where can people find you on the internet? What do you have going on? You have Queer Memoir tomorrow at 4 at Caveat. I know that.
That is true. Also tonight on Waiting Room, which if people want to hear me talk about health and healthcare, a health and healthcare story, I'm going to tell a story that has the words brown frothy in it. The magic is brown and frothy, and not even talking about poo. So that's going to be pretty great, I think.
Okay.
Some other great folks on that show.
Who's hosting that? That sounds like a great time.
Sammie James, once again. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Sammie.
Yeah, check that show out. I'm gonna guess it's at 7 p.m. on Zoom, knowing nothing about it.
Yes, that would be my guess as well. And that folks, I believe it's pay what you can
Yep.
through Eventbrite, and there's a Facebook event as well. Yeah, so that is one place folks would find me. Yeah, Queer Memoir, and then I'm just kellydunham.com, Kelli with an I, Dunham.com. And also, if people like, I have a YouTube channel where I have some stop motion Lego videos. I was going to say art. They aren't art, but there's a stop motion video about called Body Fluids on the B train, which is about something that happened to me on the B train, and one about when I was a nun playing basketball. And I'm also on TikTok as well, which is I'm just kind of starting out and trying to figure out that. But if you want to hear the daily funny or not funny stories of gender stuff, that's where that mostly ends up, you know. I've done at least one TikTok from inside the bathroom. In fact, that's where I should actually do all my TikToks. That'd be interesting, right? I could be the bathroom TikTok person. Yeah, that won't be creepy at all. It'll be that's like literally what they think we're doing, you know. You know, all these like cisgendered people who are like, oh my god, trans people in the bathroom, and they get so obsessed. It's like, why are you thinking about the bathroom so fucking much, you weirdos?
Yeah. I mean, we're done, but I had this two bathroom experiences. Let's make this show about me. That I had someone, this was years ago, and this was like early in transition. This is like I was a femme. Okay, so like I had someone, like after I used a woman's room, I had a woman follow me around a mall to then get a look at me, get a closer look at me. I'm just like, and she's like, hey, I'm like, what? I'm like, never mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
This was recent. This was a couple months ago. I went and I was using a bathroom, and I had a janitor. She just came up to me and was just like, "Hi," like kind of blocked my way. I was like, "Hey, how are you?" I was like, "I'm fine," and it was like clearly her just wanting to hear this person's voice. Just like, why?
Why is this necessary? Please tell us why this is necessary. Yeah, the triple take thing is one of my favorite things where somebody, because right now with the pink hair, I'm sometimes getting faggot a lot more, which in some ways is like safer than whatever else people think, you know. But not for the bathroom so much. But like when people do a double take, like, okay, you're right, whatever, you're doing a double take. Some people do a triple take. One time somebody did a quadruple take and then walked into a beef jerky display. And I was like, sorry, that's your fault. Like, I'll give you the double take, whatever. Like, you believe that gender is binary, I'll give you the double take. But if you're up to quadruple take, you're just going to have to walk into the beef jerky,
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's where we're ending. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Kelli. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We will be back next week with another conversation with one of our trans faves. But until then, take care of yourselves and goodbye, everybody.